Okay, welcome today to the live stream, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you think about what is going on in the US and what has been going on in the US against this backdrop of inflation, unaffordability crises, the crime, the homelessness, what US citizens have been dealing with in recent years, and you actually bring that to what we exposed earlier in the week, it is somewhat shocking. And that was really just the tip of the iceberg. Some of the stories I told you on, I think it was Tuesday when I last streamed here. And I've been going through today. I know there's a lot of questions about how I found those payments, and I'm going to show you the website so that you can actually have a field day, just go crazy looking at all of these payments for yourself. You can find any organization you want. If they are on there, you just type it into the search bar. So I'll show you how to do that in a moment, because I know there's a lot of questions on how I did that. And just imagine working every day of your life to pay taxes, which if you're on an average income, you got a family or something, you know how difficult and what a stretch it is, only to now find out how these taxes have been spent, with just billions being squandered, or corruption, or kickbacks, and all the other things that we're now finding out. It is really a lot worse than I could have imagined. I've uncovered a few more payments today, which I think you'll find quite fascinating. Some of the organizations I've been saying for years have been getting payments. We've now got the evidence that they have. I was also looking into some of these politicians who are on a $174,000 salary, and yet they somehow seem to be worth $250 million US. Some of them hundreds of millions, some of them in the several million. How on earth you become worth $250 million when you've been a career politician your whole life on a salary less than a couple $100,000? Well, we've been finding out. Now, what they've also announced is to cut the staff numbers from the it's absolutely staggering, actually, when you include everyone overseas as well. And there's a lot that's been coming out about these overseas workers, which is interesting. But let me just say, I'll mention that in a moment. They're going to be cutting it all the way down to 300 workers. That's all. And a lot of these NGOs are in uproar at the moment. It's not just the Dems that are in uproar and trying to storm the building. We'll use that word. But there's NGOs everywhere. And I think I've shared before that I've seen certain people that are in scruffy t-shirts, a bit smelly, and yet they're staying in 5-star hotels, sat next to me eating steak and lobster when I'm just eating my some pasta or something. They're sat next to me eating steak and lobster and just going crazy on cocktails and all sorts of things all day long. I'm thinking, and my wife even said, who are these people? And I said, oh, they work for, because they have the t-shirt and it shows some of the NGOs and who they work for. Now, again, I'm not saying all NGOs, but I'm just giving you an example of, I have seen this multiple times, because I probably spend maybe 80 nights a year in hotels. So I see people all the time in their scruffy shirts with the logos on of exactly which NGO they work for. And they're sometimes spending hundreds of dollars a night on the hotel. They'll easily spend $100 on a meal. And you've got to say, well, where's that money coming from? Well, we've started tracing it now. We can see where some of this money is going. So, as always, be very careful who you even donate money to. Make sure you sort of verify where that money is spent and that it's going to the right causes. I always do this for all the money I give each month. I always vet the organization. But coming back to it, though, they're going to be reducing this down massively. And I want to go through some of these new payments in a moment. But this, actually, let me show you a quick video here as well. So this has come.
Do they know that we are here? Max, ask the question again. That's the important.
Were you told, are you making this decision to stand in front of this door on your own behalf, on behalf of the Department of Education, or were you told to come out here and block members of Congress and ride the desk?
I'm doing my job.
So
this security guard's great. He's just like not caving to any of this. But it shows you is the usual suspects here trying to get into you know, they're trying to get into this building, trying to go back to work. They want to, I'm not exactly sure what they want to do. They're trying to get into the building anyway. But this is just going on and on and on. And we've also had, okay, so I looked into some of the schools as well. A lot of people have done the research for me. This account did a good job as well. So some of this, other people have done this research. So this was USAID, $159 million from your taxes to build 106 climate resilient schools in Pakistan. Well, funny enough, some of the Pakistanis are making these videos and showing exactly what these schools look like. Okay, there you go, US funded. So it's showing you the plaques that came from the USAID, and he's just showing this school. And he's showing just what an absolute mess this school is. He says the desks are just, you know, like $5 desks. It's not even plastered. You know, he's saying how much was apparently spent on this school. And it's obviously corruption. There's no way. I mean, look at the state of this thing. Millions, $159 million. It's obvious now what we're finding out is that there's a ton of corruption going on with all of this money. And I'll show you as we go through the video how you can look this up again if you missed the first part. And we're also getting into the Politico aspect as well now. And you know that there's obviously something going on here because the backlash from media outlets and some of the politicians are insane. You've only got to read some of these stories, and it actually they're letting the cat out the bag, really. They're giving the game away because you can see which organizations are running the same story, which tells you they're probably in on it as well. So Politico actually responded to this, what was it, $27 million in government subsidies. And they've said that, no, it wasn't subsidies. This was a transaction for Politico Pro. But someone actually paid for Politico Pro. They've done a sort of expose on it, and they're saying this is just junk. What is this behind this paywall? There's nothing here. And we've got the payments as well, which I want to show you in a moment. Actually, let me just show you the payments now as we go here. So this is one, usaspending.gov. And again, we can pull up loads of these payments. This was $34.3 million. So this is in total across all agencies. So we're actually finding out now it's not just USAID, although it's actually people correcting me saying, Neil, it's not USAID, it's USAID. It is actually USAID, ladies and gentlemen. I was saying it correctly in the first place. It's just, you know, they just say USAID for easier. But across all government agencies, it's $34.3 million here. We've got Politico, funny enough, now that we know they were getting all of this money, we start looking into some of the stories. So they were the ones that actually led with a lot of these stories about, you know, the laptop and all of this other stuff. And you see, whenever something came out, they seem to be the arm of protection for the last administration. And again, you can look this up for yourself. It's all there. And we can start looking through all of these transactions. So here's Politico. Here's another one, 862,000. Again, these go on and on and on, all of these transactions that we can find here. $8.1 million here. This was for 236 transactions. There was one here for 517,000 US dollars. This was from the Food and Drug Administration. So there's obviously laundering going on. There's no way all of these. I mean, what does the FDA need to pay Politico $517,000 for? Same with some of these other organizations. New York Times as well, $3.1 million. Now, that's interesting when you start going through some of these stories from the New York Times. They're saying that there's a hit piece on Politico. Well, we know why they're saying that now, because they also got payments here of $3 million. CBS News as well. The editor-in-chief told all of his staff they've never received any government programs or subsidies, not 1 cent in over 18 years. He said it was all from subscriptions from the private sector. It's not true. That is a lie, ladies and gentlemen. We can see, we've looked into it. And, oh, okay, more then. I've always suspected that the WEF, the World Economic Forum, got payments as well, but there wasn't really an easy way to find it. But now all of this has been opened up, we can see. So hold on, let me show you this one here. And this is the website you're going to go to, by the way. Do it after the video. And remember, I always forget to say, but please click the like button, share the video, subscribe. I always forget to say this. I should have 1 million subscribers by now, but I never ask people to subscribe. So please subscribe to the channel if you're not already. So let's have a look at this then. WEF, and here they are. It is here in blue and white, and how much they got? $52.2 million US dollars here, $16 million here, and they're called obligations to them. So you can go onto the usaspending.gov, and I think they're overwhelmed at the moment, but I just type, you just type it in here, World Economic Forum, and you can look USAID. I haven't even started looking into the other government agencies yet to see if they get money from elsewhere, but it all makes sense now. All of this starts to make sense when you put it all when you're putting it all together. It's as if we had a jigsaw puzzle, but there was most of the pieces missing. Well, now that Doge, as they call themselves, are opening it all up and just putting all this information openly so we can look at a lot of this stuff, we're seeing how it all fits together. We're seeing how the director who I mentioned the other day, Power, was part of the WEF. We're seeing how part of the United Nations and some of these other organizations, which we've known for a long time, are doing some pretty dodgy stuff. So we're seeing how all of this is starting to connect together now. And now we're seeing all those payments made from this organization. Now we need to start looking at, okay, who are some of these other prominent people that are part of the WEF? Well, now let's look at their department that they were the head of, and let's look at them on these registers. And again, we can spend all day just doing this. I spend hours and hours. The other day I spent pretty much the full day just going through all of these payments, and I brought you some of the juiciest ones, which I've now seen. Some of the ones that I found from all of the logs are on mainstream media. Not that I get any credit for finding some of these, because there's no way they went through all of those pages and found the exact ones that I talked about, but anyway, it is what it is. But let's keep going on with this. What else? We've got Bloomberg Financial. This was also from USAID. And you can see all of these, there's 17 of them going the way down. So then I started looking at Bloomberg. Oh, what are they saying about this? USAID shutdown is an attack on the world's most vulnerable. So again, now that we see this, we can start looking at, well, who was getting money, and let's see how they respond. And we can see how they respond with their different articles here. Where do we get? Here we go. And so yeah, go on to usaspending.gov after the video's over, and you can start playing around with this. You put the start date, the end date, the range in here. You can put the different organization in. So I went for USAID, for example, but you can start going through and finding all of these payments, and it really runs deep. Now, we're also seeing who else was, you look at the fairness meter on some of the media articles, and you're seeing unfair left-leaning, and it's pretty much whenever there's any criticism of what they're doing at Doge and uncovering all this corruption, the media that's coming out on this is very left-leaning. We're seeing it, and that's why I like this fairness meter that they've got on it. But I did look up, because some people said, oh, Neil, some of the things that you came up with here, oh, I just don't believe any of them. I don't believe this. Can you need to prove it. And, what's the source? Show me the source. The sort of stuff people say all the time. So I've actually found a strong source here. So you can see this is from the previous administration working with Axios and some of the others. So I've actually got you a strong source that you can look at here for those people who, whatever. It's always the same sort of people. But here we go. This is US foreign aid disbursements by country, so you can see how it's all broken down. And this goes all over the world, by the way. 69 million to Brazil, 236 to Peru, 700 million to Colombia, 242 to Mexico. It just goes on and on all throughout the African continent. Even Portugal gets some money. Ireland gets 5 million US. Spain, 800,000. It goes all around the world, this money does. Afghanistan, this is the 1 billion we talked about that sort of disappeared overnight. A big pallet of money disappeared. 279 million to Pakistan, which is now being said that went into funding terror. Some of it went, I should use the word, some of it went to funding terror. Uzbekistan, 59 million. Mongolia, 82 million. China got 10 million as well. So you can see all of this, but this is what I found interesting. We'll come on to this. Ukraine is at 17 billion. Now, why is that interesting? Well, I'll show you that in a moment. Actually, I should have probably showed you that now, but let me tell you about this. Should we show you Ukraine first? Yeah, let me show you Ukraine first, then we come on to the chemical company. So US aid funding halt leaves Ukrainian media seeking support. So various Ukrainian media projects have asked for help following the suspension of the US aid. It said all of its projects in Ukraine, they've suspended all of these projects. Why? It said journalists noted that the grants accounted for 2/3 of the project's budget. So now they are pleading for financial support. So this is fascinating to me that we find out that the US was funding the majority of Ukrainians' media. And you can go through, there's a whole list of all of these different media sources, 80% dependent, some of them are 90% dependent, some of them are 75% dependent, but it goes on and on and on. And so what's happening is the EU is saying that they are going to now fund the programs previously supported under USAID. Now let me take you back to this one then. So this is fascinating, and you can do your own research on this. This is billions of dollars, billions going to this Chemonics International. I thought, what is this? This is unusual. And luckily, this gentleman here, Champagne Joshi, thank you, has done the research for us. So it's a Washington, D.C. based development firm. And you start looking into it, and it's very, very suspicious indeed, with the amount of money that they were getting. What exactly they were doing with this money, we're not sure. Why they've scrubbed a lot of people, I'm not sure, but there's Wayback Machine, so we can look at all of this. There's a lot of suspicious things going on here, but we'll get into that another time. What else? Okay, the crackdown on news subscriptions. There's all these hit pieces as well now. No, Politico did not receive all this money from USAID. It was for subscriptions, they're saying. Yes, it's all for subscriptions, and we didn't get any of this money. Even we found out Disney had these subscriptions as well. So the Disney Corporation was getting these subscriptions. There's tons of them. So what did they say? They actually said in their article, oh, we've lost 700,000 subscribers due to price hikes. This all came out the same day as these pieces. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd really appreciate that. And remember to click like and subscribe if you're not already. And thanks for being online. Take care. God bless.